I want to share one more useful graphic with you, which you see on the screen here. This is a template for us that we use in all of our church planter training. Pastor Todd Sovine, who leads our central region, was so helpful in putting this together. I want to point it out to you so you can see the components of it. I mean, we'll spend 4 days on this thing, so we're not going to do that right now. But here's the idea. As you look at this graphic, you'll see on the far left that there's a biblical world view that we as believers and alliance believers will largely share together. And then from that, really, if you'll see on the graphic, it's going to kind of flow down to mission. Biblical worldview should really be close to mission on the left side. But once you get to mission, that's been pretty clearly defined for us, right? To go into the world, make disciples of all nations. You've got Matthew 28, Acts 1:8. It tells us what to do. So our mission we're going to share. But you'll notice now that the graphic splits into two directions. And on the top, it goes to core values. And at the bottom, it goes to cultural context. And the idea is that while we share the mission and while we share the biblical worldview, we are going to have unique core values of what matters to us as we do ministry. These values are going to be shaped by who we are. They're going to be shaped by the environments in which we find ourselves. They're going to be unique. Doesn't mean that other people don't have very similar values, but not everybody's going to have all the same values. And if they do, then we probably haven't driven down far enough to figure out our own core values in ministry and in life and in church planting. Cultural context is the same way. We do not share the same cultural context. I'm doing ministry in suburban Southern California. It's going to be very different from inner city Philadelphia or wherever it might be. So as God takes a leader and develops their biblical worldview, he puts us on mission, but then he's going to develop in us our unique core values and our unique cultural context. Now put all that in the mix. Our mission, our core values, and our cultural context, those are going to come together and they're going to form a unique vision of ministry to who we are, what we value, and where God has placed us. Now, as we train church planners, we're going to help them figure out what are your core values, what is your cultural context. Now, based upon that, what is your unique ministry vision? What do you see? What's your preferred future that you see? What's your vision? Once we start to figure that out, we're going to come up with strategies as to how God might realize that vision through us. That's where the arrows point to. We come up with unique strategies to our own ministry, to our own church. And then underneath that, those become the structures that hold up the strategies that we have. I'll give you one quick example. We planted our first church in Huntington Beach, very different from other areas. Surf City, USA, it has its own culture. We planted our second church inland in Temecula Valley, which was largely a bedroom community of people moving in. In the Temecula Valley, people had fairly nice homes, but they moved here from somewhere else. Nobody knew each other. They had homes now, they had jobs, they didn't have friends. So we thought that we should build this church on community, really lean into community. And in Southern California, that's what we did. In Southern California, you can still rent a space and people will go there for the purposes of community. That's how we launched the church. That would not be effective in other areas, but it's very effective here. The point is, know where God has placed you. Figure out your own values, figure out your own cultural context, figure out the vision God has given you, then put in place the strategies necessary to fulfill that vision, and then the structures that will be necessary to support that strategy. Now, as you're developing as a leader or as a church planter, all of these are going to come into play. And if you go to one of our boot camps or basic trainings or preparing to plant trainings, we'll take you through all of this. It would be worth your time. And again, you can get to those dates of when we do that through our churchplantingalliance.org.